If you love what you're listening to here, you are going to love our 21-day magical self-care challenge. This is more than just a challenge. It is a community, and it includes our magical self-care course and 2 PDF books, the Magical Self-Care book and the Born Magic book. Both bestsellers on their release date on Amazon, and we can't wait to get them into your hands. Join us for the 21-day magical self-care challenge. And by the end of the class, you are going to have some new magical tools in your tool belt, and you are also going to feel supported, and you're going to have the steps to easily and efficiently bring self-care into your life as the foundation of your life, so you don't have to seek it out every day, because your whole life will be built on magical self-care. Check out the link to join us in the 21-day challenge, and we can't wait to see you in there. I am a person who loves stories. So I went to school to be an English teacher, and now I do all of this work here at the Sisters Enchanted. But one of the things that drew me into wanting to be an English teacher was really around story and how we can connect to story, the intricacies and meaning, and like foreshadowing and using language and looking at what's to come in a story. All of these little elements, dissecting characters, how we can relate to them, what they mean for us in society, led me to wanting to do that as work. Now I'm very privileged here at the Sisters Enchanted in that I get to dive into story all the time, whether that is through your energy centers or archetypes or astrology. There is never a lack of invitation to dive into story. And today we are going to look at the energy of the Mapper archetype and what that has to do with the winter months. If the word witch makes you feel full of power and excitement, if you love personal development but loathe boring love and light conversation, if a sexy combo of witchery and inner work piques your interest, you're in the right place. Welcome home, Magic Maker, and welcome to Expedition to Soul, the podcast brought to you by the Sisters Enchanted. All right, welcome back to this episode of Expedition to Soul. I am Sarah, founder of the Sisters Enchanted, and we teach this model called the expansion archetypes. There are 5 expansion archetypes. Each person has every archetype within them. That's similar to astrology in that way, where you have all the signs in your birth chart. But at any moment in time, there is really one archetype that is in the driver's seat for you. Now, this will vary person to person, but each archetype also aligns with a different elemental energy and a seasonal energy. And in that way, we can all learn from the medicine and the story of the archetype that's aligned with the season that we're in. And we are in the winter season, and that is aligned with the Mapper archetype. Now, I will say that here at the Sisters Enchanted, the 2 most frequent results of our archetypes quiz that you take to find your expansion archetype is Mapper and Wanderer. So those are the 2 most common. And with the Mapper, we're looking at this energy of setting intentions, of understanding that we can still make a plan even if we don't know what the end result is going to be. So, as the winter months come in, they bring shorter days, longer nights, as we all know. And the Mapper archetype experiences this season in a unique way. And again, we all have all the archetypes within us, and it is one of the most common archetypes, the Mapper archetype. For Mappers, winter can be a time of deep introspection and planning, but it can also bring challenges that can lead to self-sabotage or significant constriction to their expansion, or it can bring expansion. And because we're all in this energy, we might all feel this as well. Mappers are natural planners and strategists. They actually love to know what's going to happen and put those details together. They thrive on creating order from chaos and mapping out their journey in life. And winter, because it's so still and quiet, it really offers the perfect backdrop for mappers to reflect on the past year and plan for the year ahead. It's a time when they can dive deep into their thoughts, reassess their goals, and chart new courses. And we can all lean on that energy this time of year. However, this period of introspection can also sometimes lead to overthinking, getting too stuck in that thinking. The lack of sunlight and the cold can affect mood and energy levels, which leads to feelings of lethargy or melancholy. We've all been there. This is where the risk of self-sabotage lies for mappers. I know this. We lost electricity where I live for 5 hours this morning, which for us, I live in Connecticut where we sometimes get hurricanes, and we've lost electricity for 7 days straight twice in the 13 years that I've lived here. So this 5 hours is nothing compared to that. But it was just so stinking dark. There's no sunlight. And I felt like I was in a cave for 5 hours, and it was the worst. And I really felt that sense of melancholy. So this mapper energy, and for all of us, really might find ourselves getting lost in details, over planning without taking action, or becoming overly critical of progress. So really wanting to set a course and act on it right now. Also overthinking the course, therefore sabotaging and not setting a course at all. So, to recognize self sabotage during these months, mappers and all of us should really be mindful of patterns of procrastination, excessive planning without execution, and negative self talk. Really paying attention for that negative self talk. It's important to remember that planning is only effective when it's coupled with action. So, mappers got to be aware of when they're using planning as a form of avoidance rather than a tool for progression. So, something that mappers might do is buy a lot of planners and then never really use them, or use them so much and never execute what they wrote down in the planners. Mappers will also get stuck in that overthinking I mentioned before and feeling like somebody else must know the way better than they do. Therefore, they're not qualified to know what decisions to make for themselves, and then will sabotage. So, to harness the potential for expansion, mappers should focus on setting realistic goals and breaking them down into smaller, more manageable tasks. This approach can help combat that overwhelm that comes with big projects and keep the momentum going. Also, incorporating physical activity into their routine is key for mappers and for all of us during the winter months, because it can help combat the winter blues, boost energy levels, and make it easier to stay motivated and focused. Mappers and all of us during the winter should really embrace this introspective nature of winter. Journaling, meditation, other reflective practices can help to connect with our inner selves and gain clarity on that path forward. Again, trusting in ourselves, trusting in the universe to deliver the right next step, and know that we're smart enough and capable enough to recognize the next step and then take it. The connection to their inner world is really crucial for mappers, because it will help them align their plans with their true desires and values. Self-trust is a big struggle for mappers, and engaging in physical activity helps increase the trust as mappers and all of us deepen into our bodies. So we want to be mindful during the winter months of over planning, self criticism, negative self talk, and really use this time to deepen into that mapper energy and lay the foundation for the year ahead. So each of the expansion archetypes has a constriction and an expansion energy to it. And for the mappers in particular, they will constrict when by doing a couple things, and that's sabotage, by trying to create this big giant plan and then never implementing it, or by starting to make a plan and then not following through because they feel like they're not going to do it right and getting in that negative self-talk. And then the expansion part is when a mapper really can trust in themselves to create a plan and trust that it's the right plan. And that's when a mapper will be an expansion. An expansion is akin to manifestation, receiving, all of that good stuff. So we really want to be in that expansion energy, which relies on that self-trust and letting the inner being slowly come to the surface during these times of the year, during the winter season, to hear what we need to hear, and then trust in ourselves to follow through on the things that we're hearing. All right. So the mapper energy, it is aligned with the winter months, which is where we are now. We've heard about how we can sabotage with that energy and also how we can expand into it. We all have all of the archetypes within us, but the mappers and wanderers are the two hugely most popular responses that we get with this archetype quiz. So if you want to know yours, we'll link up the quiz and you can find your archetype. And yeah, self-care, also working on your self-care, being in your body. Spiritual self-care is particularly useful for mappers and during the winter season because it helps us to connect to something outside of ourselves so that we can better lean on an energy that is supportive when we're really in the negative self-talk, really feeling like we don't know the way forward, like somebody is smarter than we are. The spiritual self-care is pretty critical for also being an expansion in that mapper energy. All right, take the quiz. We'd love to know your results. So find us on social media or over in our community group and share it with us. And also, after you take the quiz, you'll get a little bit of information about your results too in your email. So you can check that out and get some tips on your archetype, no matter which one of the 5 that it is. All right, y'all. Thank you for hanging out with me on this short episode of today's podcast, Mapper Energy during the winter. Until next time, I hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead. But wait, before we head out of today's podcast episode, we're going to break for a Ask Me Anything segment. Before we let you go, I'm going to do an Ask Me Anything segment here. And today's question is on marriage. So this is a big question, more than just an Ask Me Anything, I think. I got to do like a master class on this. But the question was, how did I change the course of my marriage? If you've been in our community for some time, then I'm pretty open about most things in my life. And this is one of them. Marriage has not come easily for me. It's not come easily for my husband and I. We've been married for 11 and a half years. We've known each other for over 20 years, and it's been challenging to say the least. For context, I work full time. My husband's a stay-at-home dad, and that's brought its own set of challenges. And in terms of how, like the real quick, how did I change the course, and how can you apply this to any relationship? I think really looking at what I was telling myself every day about my marriage and my husband was really important. So what were the words I was repeating constantly? Because the words you say in your mind and out your mouth are the spells you cast for your life. So looking at what I was saying, and whether or not it was helpful to say it. Astrology certainly helped save my marriage because once I realized we were opposite rising signs and then had the same moon sign, it was very apparent to me that a lot of the things that bothered me about us having different opinions really is just because we're two very different people, and trying to stop fixing that. Like we're just going to be two different people and coming to be okay with that. The other thing that really helped in this with any relationship and anything in your life is figuring out what part of you is getting something from suffering in a relationship. So whatever the relationship is, for me, I had 2 businesses and 2 babies in less than 10 years. So, and I, you know, built both my businesses. I attachment parented, so I breastfed and co-slept and breastfed with both my babies until my youngest was 5. That was a lot. It was a lot happening. For one of those years, I was pregnant and had a toddler at home and ran both my businesses. And so there was a lot of resentment in me about how much work I was doing for our family and lack of support that I was getting. But I really had to look at that and ask myself what I was getting from staying in that resentment. So if I just decided one day not to be mad about that and not to feel like I wasn't like I was doing more, if I just decided to say, well, that was then and this is now, this feeling that letting go of a situation or a story, really feeling like now it's not valid anymore, oh, well, I've moved on. So everything's forgiven. Having to understand that I can both be present and know that I worked my butt off in ways that were not equally, wasn't like an equal sharing of the working one's butt off here. But holding on to the story and holding on to that resentment really isn't serving me. And if I move away from the resentment, that doesn't make the experience not valid anymore. So, whatever, if you're a person who's, this question was specifically around marriage, and that was a big one for me. Those few things. One, realizing that what I was thinking every day, the words I was thinking and what I was saying are not helpful words. I was having to reconsider what I was saying and thinking. The second thing, realizing that we really are just very different people and coming to terms with that, like really coming to terms with it and saying that that's actually can be okay. And it's going to be hard sometimes. And how do I communicate clearly with compassion, assertively when I feel strongly about something and have a need that needs meeting, even though we don't see something in the same way. And then the third bit really around uh, letting go of the things that were hurtful and knowing that it doesn't make my experience not valid to move forward from them. So it can still be valid that I worked really hard, disproportionately so, and that is valid. And I don't have to think about it every single day. And by me not, by me moving forward, it doesn't invalidate the experience. And that was something that I had to work on. So that those are three things that I did to save the course there, and not when things were really, really bad and perhaps looking a different way. Those are three specific kind of changes in my energy that I made. There's more to it, but those are like those three energy shifts I think were the biggest and can help with any relationship, not just marriage. They can help with friendships or, relationships with your parents or kids or anything at all. So, really, who are they and letting it be okay that they're different than you? What are you thinking and saying about the relationship and the person? And then also for those parts where you're hurt by something, knowing that being present and creating a new future doesn't invalidate the past. Um, and this segment is coming on our expansion archetypes talk about mappers. And I will say too, kind of an addition here is my husband's never taken the expansion archetypes quiz. That's not his jam. But by the way he talks, he talks a lot about could have, should have, what could be. And that's a very dreamer energy to think, oh, if only we had done this at this time and get really stuck in it. Or to think about the future, but so much so that you aren't taking action on it. And really, this could have, should have, would have, what could be, what should be, how it should be is a dreamer energy. And I'm a wanderer energy. And those are opposite energies. And one like will definitely take action rapidly and one will not. So we also have that happening that is different. But knowing that that difference exists and really just acknowledging it as that's just a different personality has been so, so helpful for me to stop saying about, how I would do it, how my way is better, how like I'm not getting it the way I want, um, and focusing on myself. So none of this involves my husband actually doing anything different. It's all focused on me because I can't control him. So those are three things that I did. I hope you find something helpful in there in whatever relationship might feel a little bit hairy for you right now. And I think maybe this will be a topic I'll go into further some other time in the future. But for now, thanks for listening in and get out there, live in your magic, stay magic. You were born that way. Let's all stay that way. Have a great day. Bye. If you love the podcast, be sure to leave us a rating or a review. That helps us to get the word out about all we're doing here at the Sisters Enchanted. Thanks for being part of our community, and we'll see you in the next episode.